also someone who wanted to know the cause and symptoms of disease from a molecular level, not just the bandage. And therefore, would you address that? Because I think it
If you
fits.
if you treat a symptom, you'll always treat a symptom. You're putting a Band-Aid on something that never will heal. And so, like I said, my love is chemistry. Well, if I can go in and look at, the human body at the cellular level, take a simple one, like you have weak bones, osteoporosis. Well, why? I mean, I got back from my active duty over in Europe. I had started an Atkins diet, and I was on it for about 6 years. I found it super easy to live on about 5 grams of carbohydrates a day forever. But I'd go down to, I was living in Germany, I went down to Italy for a weekend, and I gained 12 pounds, literally in 3 days, eating pasta and bread and whatever. I come back and I'd lose a pound a day. Well, it wasn't until I got back to the States that I realized that the diet I was on, I was living in acidosis. And as such, it was leaching calcium out of my bones. And I didn't know this until I had my very first bone density test. I was osteopenia. I said, this just does not make sense. I've been, running 4, 5, 8, 10 miles routinely, lifting weights for an hour a day for years. And this, I expected to have strong bones. That's what everybody ever told me. So anyway, when I looked into it, I found out the relationship of blood pH to calcium loss. So if you're eating something as opposed to a pill, but let's say I'm eating something that has calcium in it because it's a lot easier to absorb in the body. But if I have a calcium pill, 8 times out of 10, it's going to be calcium carbonate. It ends up straight right in the toilet. It doesn't even get anywhere. But in order for the calcium to be absorbed, you need magnesium, which a lot of people are deficient in. So assuming you have the calcium and the magnesium, it leaves the stomach, goes through the duodenum. And if you have enough vitamin D3, which most people don't, it will end up in the toilet. But if you have vitamin D3, it ends up in the bloodstream. Now you have the calcium in the bloodstream, and it has 2 places it can go. One is to the heart valves and arteries, and the other one is to the blood into your bones. So if you don't have vitamin K2, then it ends up in the wrong place in the body. So if you know molecularly what's happening, then that's easy. Now, one of the things my wife's oncologist was talking about when she had breast cancer was, just take calcium. And we ended up not talking to each other for about 2 visits because he is a blood doctor and a oncologist. He really thinks he knows a lot about that. I specialize in nutrition, especially in how things work. And I'm telling him every rule. And by saying that in of itself, there are some rules there are no exceptions to. And so it's kind of a 2-edged sword in the fact that there's an exception to every rule, but there is not an exception to every rule.
And why does it appeal to you? What is it about it that resonates with you?
Well, from my math, my first degree was in chemistry. I had math and physics minor. And you're looking at things and, okay, fine. I know that this chemical is going to attach to this chemical in a certain way. That is the way it is. Very hardcore. But when you start getting some of the softer sciences, maybe political science or sociology or whatever, there isn't that. I mean, I took a class in accounting. Well, it could be a debit if it's this way, but it could be a credit. I mean, it's just, I don't like there's not a hard and fast rule. If there's a hard and fast rule, it's always a debit. It's never a credit. Or it's always why do I have a choice? Well, that's the way their system is set up. They have choices. And we have the same thing. We have a lot of choices in our lives. The choices of the foods we eat, but we don't make those choices based on what we like. I mean, obviously a lot of them are, but we make based on what our parents fed us when we were little. And that's sugar tastes good, makes kids calm down, and we get that sweet tooth and we just live with it the rest of our lives. Donuts taste a whole lot better than asparagus. So we have these choices, and we're not always making the choices the same. When my wife had cancer, the one side effect from the drugs that I could not address adequately was fatigue. She was taking 1 or 2 2-hour naps a day, no matter what. She had weeks, actually months of chemotherapy, and she's getting ready to start weeks of radiation therapy. I had read a book called The Walls Protocol, and Dr. Terry Walls, in a short story, she's an internist. She came down with MS, got worse and worse and worse. Nothing doctors did work. She had a wheelchair. She had studied the autoimmune system, of which multiple sclerosis is a disease. And there she had come down with multiple sclerosis. She ended up, over a period of time, 4 years in a wheelchair. She put herself on her own protocol. In 3 months, she was able to walk using a walker. A month later, she walked using a cane. By the end of the year, she was bicycling 18 miles. On day 1 of radiation, the radiologist had told us already that her fatigue would probably get worse. I started her on one of the 4, just one of the 4 protocols, diet. 48 hours later, my wife has never had another nap. Literally. 48 hours, it wiped out months of chemotherapy fog. It wiped out the entire radiation, because the last day of radiation, we left Houston and drove to Jacksonville, Florida, 1,000 miles. I rented a U-Haul. My wife followed me, drove 500 miles each day by herself, 48 hours after her last radiation treatment, with no problems. And that's all because of a dietary change. Literally overnight success with nothing but diet. I'm not going to get into why the Walls Protocol dietary thing works. I mean, there's lots of good reasons why, and it's why we have adapted a different way of doing things. But it's those things that we don't know about. If you know that if I continue eating this, I'm going to end up with, let's take alcohol, cirrhosis of the liver. We know that. Smoking. I mean, there's certain things we know are not good for us, but is 1 cigarette a week okay? Probably not going to hurt you. Is 1 cigarette a day okay? Probably not, but it's probably not going to be a major health issue. But a cigarette an hour is definitely going to be a problem. Well, same thing with the drink. If I have 2 ounces of alcohol a week, is that a big deal? Probably not, especially if it's red wine. But if I have 2 ounces an hour, in half a dozen hours, I'm going to be asleep, because that's just the way things work. So we end up choosing our thing, but nobody has ever told us why we need to eat these foods and what it does for us. Or if you don't have it, like B12 is a common mineral, vitamin. Well, if you don't have it, it mimics Alzheimer's. I mean, almost perfect. That's why they give B12 shots to elderly, because that is the first checkbox for, okay, let's see if they're deficient in B12. But if you're taking a pill with B12 and it says cyanocobalamin on the label, cobalamines cannot survive stomach acid. It's worthless. You're just wasting your money. But if you take a methylcobalamin underneath the tongue, it gets into the bloodstream that way, subliminally. So if you don't know all these things, how can you end up having a healthy life? And it's just one of those things that we're just not, we're not aware, we're not educated. The doctors are not aware, they're not educated when it comes down to the real, and a lot of nutritionists aren't either, because of the stuff that they're reading. That's what they know, but it's not necessarily the big picture. Just so many things out there that people rely on pills, and it's not always the best solution. Vitamin E, there's 8 different, 8 different chemicals that make up vitamin E. When you buy it in a pill, it's a synthetic version of one. It's worthless. But if you have literally that much of the alpha-tocotrienol in your brain, you probably will never have any after effects from a stroke. It minimizes any kind of paralysis and things like that. So you ought to be having all 8 of those. Not all 8 are in any particular single food group. So you got to mix up your food groups, or have a pill that has all 8 of the tocotrienols.
For us to be on, what should we be on then? I mean, those of us who are not scientists, who are not molecular, the everyday person like me, what kind of way of eating is healthy for us without getting into the things that are way over our heads?
I thought if I kept talking, you'd ask the question. Okay. The diet that my wife went on, there's 4 parts of the protocol. One is exercise on a daily basis. One is toxin removal. You have to read the labels to know what not to get. Third one is stress relief. You really have to do stress relief almost hourly. And the last one is a diet. So you asked a question about what to eat. Okay, on eating, on the Walls Protocol, her every meal uses the same components. You have 1 cup of leafy green vegetables. And I may mix up 4, 5, 7, maybe 8 different kinds of green vegetables at one time. And I'll cut them up and I'll put them in. I used to measure it. Right now I know kind of how much it is. But leafy green vegetables, kale, spinach, lettuce, all those different kinds of things that are in there. Leafy green vegetables, 1 cup. Colored fruits and vegetables, 1 cup. Now the color has to go all the way through the fruit or the vegetable. If you look at an eggplant and you look at a blueberry, the color goes all the way through. The eggplant doesn't. A carrot, the color goes all the way through. So the color has to go all the way through with colored fruits and vegetables, a bell pepper. Now some people can't, how allergic to nightshades and they can't have those. But you got to figure out what you want. But colored fruits and vegetables, 1 cup. Sulfur-laden vegetables. These are primarily your cruciferous, your asparagus, your cauliflower, and stuff like that. I don't eat those. I don't like that because of the sulfur. But I love onions. I love mushrooms. Another source of sulfur. Body needs sulfur to repair muscles and everything on a daily basis. So you need a cup of sulfur-laden vegetables, or if they're sauteed, a half a cup. And then you need 3 to 4 ounces of a high-quality protein. Now, here's where I differ a little bit with Dr. Wall. Based on my research, I don't have the same protein 2 days in a row. So if today I have shrimp and redfish, then tomorrow I'm going to have lamb and turkey, and then the next day I may go back and have a shrimp. But whatever it is, don't have the same protein 2 days in a row. And so I'm constantly changing out the protein source. I keep it, now we only have 1 meal a day, generally speaking. I generally, I have about a 6-hour window that I eat in, but that window is, therefore, I do that because of intermittent fasting. But that window keeps me in whatever I want. And maybe I have a lunch, and then toward the end of that 6-hour window, then I have something else. But I generally have maybe 1.5 meals a day. And within that, I maybe have a maximum of 6 ounces of some kind of protein, which I think is fine, especially if the protein has no hormones. It's as organic as it can be, no preservatives, and everything I buy is generally organic. So if you're eliminating the toxins, you're eliminating a lot of hours of eating. And I do, like say, a 72-hour fast every month, and that's to rebuild my immune system from scratch. You're allowing your liver
I'm sorry. Can you please say, I'm sorry, but can you say the name of this? Is it Dr. Wall, W-A-L-L?
W-A-H-L-S.
Okay.
Wall.
And this is called Wall's Protocol.
The Wall's Protocol by Dr. Terry Walls.
Thank you.
And she has YouTube videos. She has all sorts of stuff. And if she walked into your office right now, you would never know she had MS. My daughter-in-law has MS, and she doesn't rely on diet. She relies on pills or whatever the latest thing. And it's, people have things they trust in. She'd prefer to eat the foods that she wants that shouldn't be eating because they have a certain effect in the gut. And we could spend another 20 minutes on the gut, but we're not going to do that. But the thing is that you want to be able to know why these things work. Now, vitamin K2, vitamin E, and vitamin D3 are the only pills that I really take. Everything outside of that is food, because I can get over 30 individual nutrients the body needs on a daily basis, and if they don't get them on a daily basis, then you start having a problem. 99% of all disease starts at the cellular level from chronic low-level inflammation. If you're not getting all these different kinds of fruits and vegetables that provide the antioxidants that go down there and stop the inflammation from free radical damage, you're not under control. I always have a C-reactive protein test done anytime I get a physical. I've had a physical every year since.
Slower. Can you please say that word slower? C what?
C-reactive protein.
C-reactive protein.
Yeah. C as in C.
I just want to be sure I'm understanding the words. Thank you. Got it, Red. Got it.
Like the red C. C-reactive protein. When you have inflammation in the body, your body creates this protein called C-reactive protein. Well, you can measure it. Simple blood test. I've had a physical every year. I had 32 flight physicals, and then I have my annual regular physical. But one of the things I've been doing for the last 10 or more years is I get a vitamin D3 test, homocysteine, and a C-reactive protein.
Where do you do this, from your regular doctor?
What?
Where do you get these tests done? Does your
I tell my doctor I want them.
Okay, so so regular doctor can do this. You just have to tell them the test.
Yeah, they have a little sheet there of the things they want. The phlebotomist, when she's taking your blood, they have these things checked off on there. Well, I said, I want this one checked. I want that one checked. I want that one checked. And they say, well, it may not. You may have to pay for it. I said, I don't care. Charge me. But a C-reactive protein test will tell you if you have inflammation in the body. And if you do, you don't know where, but if you never have it done and you have a tumor the size of a grapefruit, you would have known that 5 years ago when something could have been done. And so it's one of those things I want to know. Most of the time I have such a little amount, like 0.025% or something. I have such a little amount, it's almost unmeasurable. In fact, some years they say it's unmeasurable. But that's what the fruits and vegetables do, is they keep all that low level, so you can't start something growing out at the cellular level. The homocysteine test is a simple one. If you're low on B vitamins primarily, It's going to affect your heart. Your heart, when it doesn't operate right, make a homocysteine product. Well, you don't want the homocysteine. And so if you're knowing that, same thing with vitamin D3. My vitamin D3 levels run generally in about the 75 to 80 range. My wife a little bit higher than that, especially when she was on chemo. But you need it at least, I mean, absolutely no lower than 50. The old levels are like from 20 or 30, and people nowadays, most of them are below 20. It may be a sunshine vitamin, but it fights everything. And it's just, if you don't know what you need, it's hard to live a healthy life. Okay, I know it's healthy. I know I should be exercising every day, but I'm not. My wife and I generally, we do about an hour's worth of walking together almost on an everyday basis. Now with not being able to go to the gym, it makes it a little bit harder. It's one of the things I probably miss more than anything else. I started a routine a little over a month ago, doing 2,000 steps backwards.
Wow.
She with me. It takes us about 30 minutes to walk 2,000 steps backwards. It's a little over a half a mile. But it's called the Dao Zhu. It's a Chinese longevity program, and it's a way of recalibrating the things in your body and brain. DAO is one word, ZOU is the other word.
Yowzu.
It's, if I find something I like, it makes sense. Okay, fine, let's do it. And so we started doing it.
Fabulous. I know our time is so far over that that's an understatement. You are such a wealth of information, and I can't thank you enough for being to interview. Thank you, Red. And would you mind coming back again? Because we need to do a real, I'd like to get in discussion with you about the gut.
Okay.
I think the gut is the center of everything.
Well, it's the second brain in the body.
Yes.
When you look at a lot of things, you have your primary brain, you have your secondary brain, and they are connected in so many different ways people wouldn't even believe. And yeah, there's a lot of things that the gut has to be healthy with in order for the brain to be healthy and ready for the whole body to be healthy.
That would be.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you so much. And thank you again. You're just a wealth of knowledge. And thank you for being this example to us. And
well, I appreciate the opportunity. I feel honored that you asked me to come on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you again, Red. Happy anniversary.